Maggie, thank you for reading. That last line really, it's become a trigger of healing for me to hear that. So thanks for reading. Tonight, as we start, I just want to let you all know that I put a link for the Dropbox for this meeting in the chat. And you can listen to any of the speakers for the last 2 years plus there. And then this tonight's share will be in that Dropbox probably about a week from now. You can check it in just a little bit. But tonight, I'm really grateful to have Clint J, who's agreed to be here. I know a friend to many of you on this meeting. So Clint, we'll turn it over to you.
Hey everyone, Clint Jones, alcoholic, and I was, we typically start these talks with being very thankful that we got asked to do it, and if I said that was true for me, that wouldn't be honest, and I need to be honest tonight. Sam called me day before yesterday and started talking, was real apologetic about, I can't believe we've been doing it this long and you haven't spoke yet. I don't know what I was thinking, why? And I said, well, I've been praying that you wouldn't make this call and ask me to speak on here. So don't apologize, because I've been grateful that I haven't had to do this. I've spoke a little bit, and why the thing that makes me anxious on this workshop is that my best friends and all the people that have demonstrated the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the people that I've always wanted to emulate or hear, and this is the biggest gathering of the people that I really truly respect and love dearly, because they've helped me so much. And so I'm, immediately my lack of worth is the narrative is starting already about you're going to do a terrible job. So if we don't record it, Chris, it's okay with me. Anyway, so I am here. I'm sober by the grace of God only. It's just amazing to me that the way I think I want to do this is I think I'm going to just tell a little bit about my story, and then I'll try to give an opinion that'll probably not be a very good one about this writing of Bill Wilson's on emotional sobriety. So I was a middle child. I have 3 sisters, and I was the only male in the household, and for some reason I was the one that I was the one that was always in trouble, because everything was always my fault, and that's not what made me alcoholic. But I was just a little bit restless and irritable from the get-go, and I don't know that I can't remember my first drink, but I know that I came from a good household. There was no alcoholism in my household. There was my parents would argue at times. It was all, the only thing they really ever argued over was financial issues and money. And it seemed, I grew up thinking that we really had it bad and we were really poor. And that wasn't the case at all. My father was a hardworking guy, and he was gone a lot. He traveled for work and he was gone. But there was drinking, but I never saw anybody get anybody get out of control or any kind of trouble with it. The guys, the men, the uncles and his brother, they get together on Sundays at the house and watch football or whatever they do, and drink beer and have a good time, and never saw anybody acting out badly. But I grew up in Southern California, and during that time in the 60s, it was a pretty big deal to try to escape reality, is what my mother used to say. Why are you always trying to escape reality? And I didn't even know what she was talking about. I was just trying to have a good time and have fun. And I have a real calm story. You know, I never went to prison. I didn't do any heavy jail time or anything like that. I was able to pretty much stay out of trouble. And but I got my parents divorced when I was about 16. I was probably 16 years old. My parents divorced, and I that bothered me quite a bit. And it was I don't know why. Like I said, my father wasn't around a lot, but when I knew he wasn't coming around anymore, that bothered me a little bit. And so I also had something happen to me that I think happens to everybody, but for me, it really affected me. Is I had dated a girl from junior high school all the way to senior year in high school, and through a set of circumstances, her mother put her on restriction. Long story short, is she broke up with me, and I was devastated by that. And I kind of set the course for me, and that I never wanted that to ever happen to me again. But I felt I was really hurt by that, heartbroken, and I was that was the time when I left California and moved to Florida. I had to get away, and I didn't feel like I had anybody left, and I came to Florida and got me a hostage real quick. I was married when I was 20 years old, and realized what a mistake that was. And had my first daughter when I was 21 years old, and scared to death of all the responsibility that was supposed to be. My value system was that I needed to be responsible, and so I tried to do that. And it was obvious pretty quickly in that marriage that it was a big mistake, that we were trying to make that work. And I did that for 16 years. One of the things that I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about with this big drunk-a-log, but I'll tell you, I started drinking, and I was I was a boat captain all my life, and so there's a sense of responsibility in that I didn't drink. I mean, I wasn't drunk every day until quite a bit later. So I can't say that I was alcoholic from the beginning. I think I was a hard drinker, and I became alcoholic at some point. I crossed that line where I couldn't stop. And what happened was I was so miserable in that marriage, and she was paying too much attention to how much I was drinking. And so there was some fights. There was no real violent fighting, but there was fighting in front of the kids. Kids are getting older now. Kids are yelling at us about we shouldn't be fighting and that sort of thing. And I don't know. I was so, this is not something I knew was happening when it was happening, but I can look back on it now through the process of working steps and taking a look at what was really going on here. I found that I was so full of self and self-centered that I found this, I kind of was starting to get a hint of that I may have a problem with alcohol. At that time, I was starting to be aware of the problem that maybe I did drink too much. And I kind of thought that, if you were married to this girl, you'd be drinking all the time too. So I decided that maybe I found another girl. She was young, 10 years younger than me. And man, she was so beautiful. She was so beautiful that if I could have her, no one would want to drink and mess that up. I just wouldn't drink if I could have that girl. So I started to pursue that. I was thinking that was a good idea. But there was one problem, was we had to figure out a way to get rid of her husband. And eventually, that kind of worked out. And I about a year after she divorced, I kind of pressure was on. I started to feel quite a bit. I started to feel some guilt and shame over what was happening. So my best thinking on how to correct that would be for me to get a divorce and marry her. And so that's what I did. And we're still married together. We're still married today. And we were both pretty sick people at the time, but through this program and through the love of all the people that have been an example for us, we've kind of straightened out. I think we've pretty much straightened out and have a pretty good life now. But so that was the way I was going to live. I was not going to drink anymore. I was I was going to be a good. I knew that I couldn't make the same mistake with this one I made with the first one. So I started making those same mistakes almost immediately, and it wasn't. My drinking started getting heavy, and I think, and a lot of that had to do with I left 3 children, 3 daughters. I thought this was a good idea. My best thinking was that life was going to be so much better. They would be better, and I would be better if I could get out of there. So away we went and started this life together. And when that guilt, shame, and remorse of that landed on me, when I figured out what exactly had taken, what had happened, and that I had lowered my value system to a thing that I had said that I would never do. I was the drinking got pretty heavy. Just a few months into that marriage, she actually was considering doing an annulment. I sought some help and thought that I could. That I better get sober, and I made all the promises about I would never drink again, and I couldn't keep those promises. I couldn't keep those promises. She left me for a while, not a long while, but I want to say 2 or 3 months. She had moved out and was gone, and I was devastated, and I tried to get help and promised that I was going to do better, and I wasn't going to do that anymore. And she got back, and things were going my way again, and the drinking took off again. And I'll speed it up. None of that stuff about what I had done is what made me alcoholic. What made me alcoholic was I had this obsession that I needed to drink, and once I started, I couldn't stop, and I drank pretty heavy. So I have a friend that I constantly, when I got into AA, I was always trying to figure out why. I was always looking at why, and I had to figure out that it didn't matter why. Friend of mine, Johnny Tatum, told me one time, he said, Clint, he said, my mother is, she's allergic to seafood. And whenever she has any shrimp or any kind of fish or anything, she swells up and she just gets really bad. We have to get her to the hospital or hit her with an EpiPen. And we have done a lot of, searching. And we can't find out where she ever had any trauma in her life, but she's still allergic. So I like that because I tried and tried and tried to figure out why for the longest time, and I never did find the answer to that. But so going forward, what happened was I was drinking pretty heavy. I was drinking pretty much the better part of a handlebar every day. And, you know, I mean, I had periods of sobriety, but I was drinking pretty heavy. And I'd gotten everything I ever wanted. I had always said that I wanted to get a 150-foot yacht pay on a 60-foot sport fish boat. And I got that. And we were, you know, we were living in managing the property and running the boats, and boy, I got miserable, and I was drinking heavy. And one morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, Linda found me and called paramedics. I was in bad shape on the bed, hemorrhaging. I wasn't doing good, and so the paramedics came about 5 o'clock in the morning and loaded me up. They came in. They said, "Have you been drinking alcohol?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "How much?" And I was trying to be as honest as I could. I said, "I have no idea how much," because I didn't know. I just drank constantly. And so they took me to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 5 days in the hospital, and that was a revelation happened for Linda, for my wife at that time. She finally figured out that the problem was I was alcoholic. I pretty much knew that I was alcoholic, but I had come to the place of, I had tried so many times to stop drinking that I had given up. I had tried everything that I possibly could, and I had given up. And I had accepted the idea that I was going to die an early death from drinking alcohol, and I was okay with that. But after being in the hospital for 5 days, every day, doctors tell me, if you drink out, you were just about dead when you got here. If you drink again, you're going to die. Maybe 6 months, 9 months from now, you're going to be gone. Absolutely, you have to stop drinking. Your liver's in really bad condition, and you're not going to make it. And I thought, well, okay, then I'm going to stop drinking. And I got out of the hospital, and it was about a 10-minute drive to the house. And I carried my bag in the house and set it down. And the very first thing I did was pour a tumbler full of Absolute vodka. I absolutely could not remember, you know, the pain and suffering of even a day ago, let alone weeks or months. That was just the way it was. I couldn't not drink, had no idea how to not drink. And I used to say that I think I poured that drink because I had to have a drink to try to figure out how to quit drinking. But that wasn't what happened at all. So I continued on about another year and got to that place again where I had, you know, it was starting to become clear to me about the people that were being hurt. My children, the first wife, my present wife, you know, all those things were coming. I had made some promises to some people on Friday night about taking a responsibility of something I planned to do for them on Saturday morning. It was actually the mayor of the city of Marathon, Florida, that I made this commitment to. That at 4 o'clock in the morning, I remembered that I was supposed to be there at 7. When they turned on the lights at the last call, turned on the lights at the Brass Monkey Lounge, and I remember being pissed off because I didn't want to stop drinking. But I got home and I didn't make that commitment, and I swore that I was not going to drink, I mean, I swore, I woke up about 10, 11 o'clock and I swore that I wasn't going to drink again. I'm done. And within an hour, I was drinking again. And that was my alcoholic life was the only normal one. I was drinking and I was, like I said, I was okay with what was going on. And then I don't know, I wasn't looking to get sober. I wasn't thinking about getting sober, but something came, that I've heard it called many different things, that moment of clarity or whatever happened. I like to say what happened is, all along, all this process of all these things that I've been doing and all this bad acting that I've been doing was, I believe all along that it was the grace of God that was pushing me toward you guys, that was pushing me towards Alcoholics Anonymous. And on this particular evening, I think he touched me and he said, boy, you better do something or you're going to die. And I said that, God, please help me prayer. And I'd like to say that I haven't had a drink since. The truth is that the next morning I started calling detox center, the Mid-Keys Guidance Clinic, to try to get in for detox. And they didn't have a bed then. And I had a drink and, I had a few drinks during that day, managing the DTs to keep them off me. And I ended up getting into detox. That was on March 19th, 2006. And I haven't had to have a drink or a drug since. So all I can say about all that stuff is that, it's always been, I believe today, I didn't believe this at the time, but I believe today that God has been, that God has been trying to get me to you and trying to help me all along. And I was so full of self and a narrative in my head about how I was going to manage life, if only I managed well. And, I started coming in. What happened to me, I was in detox center and I had heard about Alcoholics Anonymous before and had actually been to meetings. I'm gonna back up a little bit. When I told you that Linda had left me for that 3 months, I did an outpatient treatment plan for 28 days, took antabuse, and thought that was working really well. After 28 days on being on antabuse, they said, you don't have to take it anymore. I volunteered to keep taking it because I thought that was keeping me sober. And what happened was I had a bad, ended up getting sick from it, had turned yellow and my liver was failing. And long story short was, after that treatment, I did go to AA and I stayed sober for a year. 14 years later now, I'm in detox. Alcoholics Anonymous never occurred to me that I might be able to get help from Alcoholics Anonymous. It never occurred to me. But what happened was there were some men from Alcoholics Anonymous that were doing their job and brought a meeting into that detox. And they touched my heart with their love, with their story. I identified, they said, when you get out of here, we'll come take you to meetings. We're going to help you. And they gave me something that I didn't have. And it was a little bit of hope that maybe I could get sober. If these guys could do it after that, what I heard from them, then maybe I can do that as well. So that started the journey, and it was nuts. I don't remember a lot, but it's amazing that you people allowed me to stay, because I was arrogant and defiant, and I kept coming to meetings, and they kept saying, keep coming back. And I did. And they just loved me, and kept me coming, and they touched my heart, and that's what I needed. And so I continued to come to meetings. And, around that 4-year mark, though, I got to tell you, I had, I wasn't big on this whole God thing. Not that I didn't think there was one. I didn't think there was one that was going to be any help to me, but, that I got to that second step, and they told me, and this is something that I had to look at. I didn't see this for many years, but, they said that you need to come to believe that there's a power greater than yourself. Power greater than yourself was the key thing. And and it made sense to me. That'll restore me to sanity. And, but what happened to me, and what was wrong about this, and I'm not saying that Bill wrote it wrong, but when he said that could have a God of my understanding, well, the God of my understanding that I imagined a God that was based, really what this God was that I imagined was me. So I was able to still play God, but say it was God doing it. and I was in this bondage of self. If there's any message that I can get to anybody that may need to hear it tonight, is this. We say this prayer to relieve us of the bondage of self, and I think this is the key thing for finding happy, to becoming happy, joyous, and free. I was so bound with self that it still will raise its ugly head and get to me. But the key component for me was getting through those steps, actually getting to look in step 4, really get to look at the person that I had become, and the person that I, the way I had been using and manipulating and abusing people, and we talk about that in 4-step meeting. I always hear somebody say, well, I'm afraid to do my 4th step. And back in the day when I was an AA sheriff, I used to 12 stomp them right away and tell them that, they needed to get on with that. But I don't do that anymore. But, I think back about all the times that I sat on a bar stool doing 5th steps with people. Columns 1, 2, and 3, I could always tell you who I was pissed off at, what they did to me, and how it screwed up my life. So this fear of looking at the past is the bondage of self. That'll, for me, that's the number 1 offender, and it'll kill me. It absolutely is going to kill me if I don't get free of that stuff. So, I have a regular practice of I try to stay really close to that 10th step, and I really consider myself a person that stays in mindfulness, and I love the 11th step and prayer and meditation, and for me that's really what it really all comes down to, is that I need to quiet down that friggin' narrative, that mind in me that's telling me stories that aren't true, and I'll constantly get caught up in that and go down a rabbit hole, and it's never a good outcome. One more quick story that I talk about the love. This program is truly is a program of love, and you know, I never felt like I deserved any of what I've received here. That's part of my story as well. That narrative means never measuring up, not being good enough, never going to be good enough. But you know, one of my daughters, we were on a family vacation in Denver, and my daughter, we were up at Breckenridge. It was in March, family vacation, the whole family, all the family goes. And part of that amends process, the ex-wife will go and be in a house with us, and the present wife. You know, we have healed. The family is healed tremendously. But one of the things that's happened is was my daughter became very sick, and it's a really a long story, and I won't do all that. But what happened was, in surgery, she had to have a surgery, and you know, the doctor had told me it's, you know, going to be maybe 4 to 6, possibly 8 hours, sitting in the family surgery waiting area. You know, some members of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not. I mean, I live in Florida. But we've made a family of people in Denver. I became a family of people in Denver, and one of those people came and sat in that hospital and prayed with me from 9 o'clock till midnight. And it was interesting that they said, Clint, we're not going to pray for your daughter. We're going to pray for the people working on her. And at 12 hours later, when the surgeon came, it was a female surgeon. When she came into that waiting room to tell me how it had gone, she looked like she'd been through it, right? And she started telling me, you know, she's young, she's strong. I think she's going to be okay. Everything looks good. And, you know, we both cried and hugged, and you know, she ended up being in the hospital for a month after that surgery. And during the release part of that, it was amazing how many of the hospital staff were in the room, and when she got out of bed and was packing her, you know, saying, I'm getting out of here. And everybody's calling her a miracle. And I said, oh, you know, the surgeon said that she was strong, she was going to make it. She said, that surgeon never thought she was going to make it. She didn't think she was going to last to the morning. And so there you have it. I've talked quite a bit. All I can say is that it's God has been moving me in directions that I've resisted, and it's always been for the better. I mean, I just can't. I constantly want to try to think that maybe if I do something, that it'll turn out good, and usually I'm wrong in that. I said at the beginning that I'd try to talk on this emotional sobriety thing a little bit. You know, I had a conversation with some people about it. This is a big deal. I'm so Tom, I was in Nashville visiting Tom. God, it's been, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago. I can't even remember. And Tom took me over to meet Sam, and he was doing this meeting live in the basement of the house he lived in. And that's when I met Sam, and it's just amazing through everything we've been through with COVID and all this, that this meeting this is a great workshop that I'm really, really happy for people like Sam that have kept this thing going and doing what he's doing in the service of Alcoholics Anonymous. But getting back to this emotional sobriety, you know, I find when I'm getting in a bad way, I've learned only recently that a lot of times when things aren't going the way I want them to go, or things seem wrong, things don't seem like they're going right, I'll double up. I'm praying more. I'm meditating more. I'm doing more meetings, and I'm finding that I'm going to say that I'm using spirituality as a defense against what's going on, rather than accepting my feelings, the good and the bad, as they're happening, staying in the present, in the moment of what's going on. I've constantly tried to defend myself against this stuff that the narrative tells me is some kind of a bad things going on, and I don't do that so much anymore, because it's actually a gift. It's a gift for me to learn and grow from, and so if I had to define what I feel like this emotional sobriety is all about, I believe it's about experiencing all of our feelings when they're happening in the present. I believe that's what emotional sobriety is all about. It's not happy, joyous, and free is a wonderful thing, but it's just not the way it is all the time. It's just not all the way it is. And so I'm happy to be here. It's great seeing Gary and Tom and Joel and Dawn and Maria, Dave up there in New York. So thanks for having me, and I'll get off now and stop. But I think now's a good time to shut up.
Clint, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, your honest heart with us. Really appreciate that. I know you've been on here before. The way that we do this is I give you a chance to call on 2 or 3 friends, and then we'll open it up to anyone who would like to share. See anyone you want to hear from?
Well, I'm going to tell you, because I have been on here, I know the routine, and all these heavy hitters get called on every time. I'm gonna hopefully let them raise their hand. I am going to call. I'm going to call on a heavy hitter, Sam Glenn.
Oh man, Clint, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry, man. Great talk. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think that that sometimes I don't realize how much this meeting and how much this workshop and how much the content and the framework of AA, it's almost like I take it for granted a little bit, because when I don't have it, I feel kind of sideways. But, over the past few weeks, I've seen how much, over the past couple years, there's times where, as Wednesday's coming around, I'm starting to feel like, oh man, I'm getting a little bit, I'm ready for my meeting. I'm ready to get around some of my people. I'm ready to do that stuff. But Clint, that was a great talk. I'll be honest, today, my brain's so scattered. Today's one of those days where, it's just, I just had so much fun all over the place. I had, my daughter was cheerleading in the game. I have a really big, rich, full life. And it wasn't until, I like what you said about about playing God, and about how God, as I understood him, puts me sometimes, if I make this a projection of myself, then I'm just playing God, right?
Yep.
But it wasn't until I didn't really get this. I always was just plagued with fear for years and years and years, until I really got that I guess it would be concept or visualization or realization of just keep and that reminder of going all in for God, just putting it all in the plate, putting it all in the pot, going completely all in. And what that meant was I didn't have to have say so about any of it. right? I didn't have to have input about it. Whatever you want from me, I'm completely burnt trying my way with marriage, with money, with sponsees, with AA, with all of it. And now, it's like my whole life is just been so filled with just so much joy, and so every area of my life blossomed as soon as I gave it up. As soon as I stopped trying to change it or correct it or have an opinion about it, you know what I mean? And but today's one of those really long days. I've got a lot of really exciting stuff going on in my life, and I'm pretty scattered. But I just say that I really can't tell you how much I appreciate your presence, and just you, Clint. You just got such a warmth around you, and you're a great guy, and I really look up to you, and I appreciate you speaking tonight. Sorry I rambled tonight, but love you guys.
Thank you. Well, so I'm trying to be directed. I'm praying and trying to be directed. There's so many people that I know you and love you, and I really want to call on somebody that I don't know, and I thought that I might try. Let's see. I want to hear from. I hope I pronounce it properly. Romy in Sedona, or Rami.
That is very sweet. Thank you so much. I've been coming in this meeting for an eternity, and I've never opened my mouth. I'm Rummy. I'm an alcoholic. I'm also an Alanonic. Thanks for calling on me. I loved your lead. I really could focus on it, and that's difficult for me. You're just easy to listen to, and gosh, I love that final story where they prayed for the medical staff, for the doctor, right, or whoever was performing the procedure, and not even that person didn't have faith, but the prayers still saved the patient. I don't know, it just really touched my heart. And I do love that we keep coming back, even though we've put a plug in the jug, to grow and advance in other kinds of sobriety, spiritual sobriety, emotional sobriety, psychological sobriety. So yeah, and I've never really heard that letter before. I kept coming to these meetings, and I always hear Veronica read it. Veronica gets lots of kudos for her accent reading it. Hello, what am I, chopped liver? Just that nobody's ever heard me speak before. I'm available to read the letter, by the way. All right, that's enough out of me. I love you guys. Keep on keeping on. Thanks for calling on me.
Thank you, Romy. I can do this all night, Chris.
Yeah, well, how about one more? I like your spirit-led thing, Clint. One more, and then we'll open it up. So if anyone would like to speak after this, go ahead and raise your hand. Okie doke. Abigail. Yeah, you. You're muted.
Well, my sponsor always said to say yes, but I'm kind of hiding out here. Thank you for calling on me. I appreciated hearing from you. I really loved the story of your daughter. But what I really loved was the sense of peace you have around you. And I was sort of chuckling at the fact that you didn't think you had a very dramatic drinking story. And I think it's a pretty good one. And it's really impressive to turn a family around under those circumstances. It got me thinking about where I might be able to do that here and there. I really don't have anything wise to say. I just appreciate your presence and that you're feeling guided to call on people. I just baked chocolate cake tonight. So here's chocolate cake spirit to you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And thanks, Clint. Tom, you have your hand up?
I do. Tom, an alcoholic, and thank you. Thank everyone. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Clint. It was great. You know, some of us who have been doing this a while, you can watch it, and it's like a gear gets shifted. And I saw the spirit take over, you know, towards the end of your talk, and I love that. I love watching that. It's like possession, but in the best sense, you know. When the spirit possesses you. But, you know, I'm thinking about and I had forgotten about that time in Denver and the praying and all that. I'd totally forgotten that. And what a wonderful story that was, you know, how important, you know, doing that is, you know. Gary Brown told me years ago when I did something that just seemed crazy on a Christmas Eve night when we were headed into Santa Fe. We got a call that this gal that wanted to sponsor this little gal, young gal, and her mom was dying and had been dying for years from Huntington's disease. And would we go up and be with her? And you know, we were headed out to do fun stuff on Christmas Eve with our kids and grandkids and everything in Santa Fe. And we said yes, and we went up, and it was really a difficult deal. It was not, you know, and I mean, it was horrible, actually, you know, to help this woman die is what it amounted to. The next day I called Gary and I said, Gary, I didn't sign up for this, man. Christmas Eve, you know, this helping this woman die. And it was just such a sad and traumatic thing. He said, of course you did. It's part of our mission, you know, and I'll never forget that, you know, and that's what happened with you in Denver, you know, that's our mission. We do that stuff. So I've got COVID, so I'm a little weepy, you know, but at any rate, that's not bad. I've been reading this book, and I just pulled it out of nowhere. I think that Mary Thayer gave it to me in 1989 or 90. And it's by Gerald May. It's called Addiction and Grace. And I'd seen it over the years on my bookshelf, but I'd never read it. And I've been reading it. And he talks a lot about detachment as a path to God, you know, and like just, you know, not giving up all desire, but not being attached to desire. That's what he keeps talking about. And that most religions, you know, have that as part of what their deal is. And so that's how I read the letter, you know, that's how and you talked about it in the third step, you know, but that's exactly how I read that letter, that like, you know, whatever I put in front of God is never going to make me satisfied or happy. It just won't. You know, it's because I'm just treading water on the way to the, you know, trying to swim to God when I do that stuff. I'm just taking a pause, you know, in my journey, and it just never works. You know, it absolutely doesn't. This came to me too, that, you know, Clint Hodges was somebody I really cared for a lot in LA. I really liked him an awful lot, and we became friendly. And I did some stuff with him, and he told the story that he was really suicidal and just in bad shape. And it was, I think, 1988, and he met up with Don Pritz and with Joe Hawk and some people in Nashville at the Music City Roundup. And Don said, you know, Clint, how you doing? He said, I'm not doing good. I'm in bad shape. I've been suicidal. I'm 23 years sober. I'm a big circuit speaker, but I'm not doing good. And he said, well, where are you in the steps? I'm not sure what that noise is in the background. It's not coming from here. I said, well, you know, where are you in the steps? And he said, oh, well, I worked the steps, you know, 20 years ago or something like that. He said, but actually I did start the steps over again, you know, but I jumped in at the third step, you know, and he said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, you know, my law partner decided he didn't want to do the deal with me anymore. And so he split up our law practice. And, you know, the hot girlfriend that I had, she left, and, you know, she wasn't interested anymore. And I lost the house on the hill with the swimming pool, and just, you know, it all just came unglued. And so Don said, what did you, you know, how did you do your third step? I mean, I'm a little surprised there was no first and second step, but how'd you do your third step? And he said, well, I thought it was a multi-level marketing thing. You could jump in at any level. So I just jumped in with the prayer. And Don said, well, what'd you say in the prayer? And he said, I said, relieve me of the bondage of self, that I can better do your will. And Pritz looked at him and said, well, it sounds like he did. Sounds like he did. Your prayer was answered, you know? And so it's not that there's anything wrong with having that stuff, but there's something definitely wrong with being bonded to it, you know, and in bondage of it. And that's what I'm starting to see. It's like, you know, none of the material stuff matters. I mean, we say that, you know, and people say, yeah, until you're really poor, and then it does matter, you know, and I get that. But the truth is, it's none of that matters. It really doesn't matter. And we know that. You know, we've experienced that. And I think if you're here long enough and you've looked at the attachments and then you've tried to give them up, you get that, you know, you get that at a deep level, that's none of that is important. You know, it's about love and it's about people, you know, what Don always said. And that's what we're trying to get to, you know. So thanks so much. You did a fabulous job. Loved it.
Thanks, Tom. I don't see any hands. How about you just raise your hand? We'd love to hear from as many people who want to share tonight.
Can I hear from Kurt?
That'd be great.
Well, Linda told me to tell you she had a client, she had to leave, but she loves you. Kurt, alcoholic. Yeah, I've enjoyed you since I met you. And one thing I can say is you're very you. You don't, you know, when you were talking, I was thinking about well, I said to Linda, I said, shit, no wonder he had to have a liver transplant. I mean, geez, I mean, the way he drank, geez, no wonder he had to have a liver transplant. But what you said, I'll tell you what stuck out with what you said. You said, you mentioned a power greater than yourself. And I always, you know, in my head, I hear a power greater than self, not yourself. And because I think what happened, you know, a lot of people know I drank after 19 years, and you know, it wasn't because I worked the steps wrong. It wasn't because I wasn't of service. It wasn't because I didn't make amends. It wasn't because of any of that. It was because I was driven by a condition that I didn't know I was driven by. And you mentioned it several times, and it's the narrative in the head. You know, most of us been sober a long time, and I had a voice in the head, an inner critic that I thought was me. And that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but there's a part in the book that says this awareness is the essence of a spiritual experience, or more religious members call it God consciousness. This awareness of the inner critic is the real you or me. And a lot of times I would think, you know, I'd listen in meetings and I'd hear people talk from the podium, and I'd think I was identifying with them. And I realized I wasn't identifying with them. I was identifying with the condition that was driving them. And it was the same condition I had. And that condition was driving my life sober. And it's why I drank again. It's exactly what Chuck C said in the book. The conflicts of sober reality become untenable, and we drink to preserve our sanity. That's exactly why I drank. It's exactly why I drank, but I didn't know that. See, I had a narrative that was telling me, See, you just don't care anymore. You gave up. That. It was just this story that had no factual basis whatsoever. Because I never knew the condition that really was driving me, and you mentioned it, the bondage of self. And I think that's the real addiction. The real addiction is the bondage of self. That we're listening to something that really is not us. We're so much friggin' bigger than that. And it comes out, you know, it's like the one lady said, it comes out in you when you're talking. I mean, you've opened your home to me and countless other people. You know, we do a little thing where we meet with 6 or 7 guys and we bounce this thing around, and that's the beauty of it, is that it's like, you know, what does Mary say? Mary always says, you're the fish you got to catch. This unsuspected inner resource. Unsuspected inner resource. So I really appreciate everything you said tonight, buddy. And I look forward to you flying your plane out here so we can go have a good time.
We're coming.
Wow, thanks so much, Kurt. I don't see anyone's hand up. I'm just going to say, because Kurt mentioned what really stuck out to me tonight. Although I've heard, you know, power greater than yourself a million times, as you said it tonight, Clint, for the first time ever, I heard a power greater than yourself rather than yourself. And I was thinking that was on my mind. And then Kurt, you just said it. And the reality is that myself is huge. And the narrative I have had as a kid is that only myself is going to save me. You know, I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at a young age, diagnosed with ADD at a young age, had a very violent, conflicted household. And the thing that always helped me to break the cycle of poverty, break the cycle of abuse in the family, was myself. And so the narrative is that, no, you have to protect yourself and keep yourself strong and powerful. And now I have to acknowledge a power greater than that self, you know, and so that same narrative that my inner critic has told me has saved me is actually the one that enslaves me. And that's the reality that's so hard for me to acknowledge. And Clint, something else you said tonight at the very end, you talked about the spirituality becoming, I forget exactly what you said, but you talked about even your spirituality almost becoming a defense rather than being present to your emotions. It's spiritualizing as a self-defense mechanism. And I would say for me, I even weaponize my spirituality to defend that self. And so this is some amazing stuff coming out tonight. Very spirit-led. Thank you. We'd love to hear from some other folks. I remember some meetings a year or so ago. Sam just started to randomly call on people. Don't make me do that, but I'd love to see some hands up here. I'm going to call on Veronica. She didn't get to read tonight, but I'd love to hear from Veronica tonight.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Veronica and I'm an alcoholic. You know, Clinton, there was I also thought about when you presented yourself at the beginning and said, well, you know, there wasn't really that much going on. And then by the time, you know, you're sort of sharing with us the drinking that you were doing, it was like, well, dang, that's actually a hell of a lot. So anyway, that's a side issue. But, well, it wasn't what I was going to say is what I mean. It's not a side issue at all. You know, today is the first day I've realized that, and I'll just back up right before this call, and I was just like a minute or two late. My mum's got dementia, and it's escalating. And sometimes it's really tough. And today was a vicious day. And, you know, as I'm listening to your story about your daughter in surgery and the AA folks that are not praying for your daughter, but they're going to pray for the folks, for the team that are working on her. And it has never occurred to me in the 3 years that my mum has been in this aged care facility with dementia support. I've told them many times how much I appreciate what they do. I've had, no exaggeration, hundreds of meetings with hundreds of people in 3 years trying to manage it. And it's never once occurred to me to actually pray for the staff, the care staff that are looking after our mum. So I want to say thank you for that. I will now include that in my prayers. There was, I took a few notes, but what else? Let me just see. I know there was something else that was really, oh, this is the bit that I loved, that you were talking about, you were using spirituality as a buffer, as a defense for things going wrong. And I see myself doing that. I'm really glad that you put words to it, that you shared that tonight, because that's what I've been doing. It's praying for, so this doesn't happen, so that doesn't happen. And at the same time, I am aware that, well, the reality or the other reality may be, well, what if that thing happens, or that thing that you're praying for, that you're girding yourself with this spiritual ammunition against. What if that thing happening is actually the thing that releases you from this bondage of self? And I really relate to that. I've had a newfound appreciation for bondage of self. I've shared a few weeks ago that I thought it was just a little bit of poetic license on Bill's part, using those words, writing it that way. And it's not. And that's really, it is truly for me the war within. That is where the war lies. And that is where, hopefully the freedom comes, from that bondage of self. How I go about it. I have recently witnessed and experienced through this fourth and fifth step, that the most current one, that this litany of what we call character defects, basically behaviors, my personality, my egoic structure, the behaviors which I take into the world, is that it's got nothing to do really with the resentment that it was originally all about. And I see in myself that those things, like Chris so beautifully said, those things, oh, this is what I heard. And for me, this set of behaviors, this set of defects, this bondage of self, this way in which I've been operating in the world that has served me so well, or what I thought had served me so well, it had been, doing a particular job, is now holding me hostage. It was really good to hear you. I also find your voice very calming. It's really lovely. It's lovely to be able to I found myself settling in and being able to hear you and listen to you. It was a real pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thanks, Veronica. Sarah H.
Hi, everyone. Sarah, alcoholic. Clinton, that was God's grace. I heard God's grace. It's interesting, several people have commented on what you said about praying for the surgeon. And when my husband was sick and eventually dying and came home on hospice, a lot of people came around and prayed. And up until that point and during that time, we weren't praying for as much for him as we were praying for him to have the peace that he needed and deserved and should have, and that he wouldn't have the pain. But we prayed for, I had started a long time ago. I write a letter to God every night, and sometimes during the day, and I'm always praying for God, please help, please bless this person, please hold this person close so they can feel your loving and powerful presence and know that you are with them, and for the people that their friends and their family and the people caring for them. So I asked God to hold them all close. And I've long since stopped asking for God to help someone because God knows they need help. I don't need to tell him that. To me, what I want to know is, God, how can I be of help to this person? If there's some way you want me to help, if it's your will for me to help this person, then just show me what it is that you want me to do. So rather than pray for God help so-and-so and God help so-and-so and that kind of thing, I ask God to simply hold them close. And that if I can be of service to them in any way, then let that be what I do. My prayers in the morning, I report for duty, because the prayers that carry the most weight and are of the rarest beauty are those in which we don't demand, but just report for duty. And so I will pray that prayer in the morning. And then I actually get up off my knees and I salute. Where would you have me go? Here I am, God, reporting for duty. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? That takes all the question out of it, and just point me in the right direction and I'll do the best I can with that. But thank you for that. Thank you for your humility and your it's a quiet humility, but that quiet humility is the evidence of God's grace in your life. And thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to just start calling on folks. Nancy in LA, how are you doing?
Hi, my name is Nancy. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Clinton, for your share. Emotional sobriety is so important to me because although I had been sober a long time, I wasn't living in emotional sobriety. So I was kind of up and down and up and down and up and down. And there was one incident that occurred when my mom passed. And my sister, I wanted to stay at my sister's house. And she said, why don't you stay at your own place? And I just, as a result of that, I had all kind of ideas of how this was supposed to go. And because she said that to me, I just lost it. And I was gone for a good 4 months in my mind. And it put me on this mission as a result of that, where I wanted my sobriety. I wanted my life to be more at peace. I wanted that emotional sobriety without knowing that it existed. I thought knowing God was enough. I thought being sober 32 years was enough, but it wasn't. And I was just praying because I'm sharing on this meeting next week and I have to come up with a topic. And I've been writing down some of the things that you guys have said, because it really is that bondage of self. And how does that play out in my life today? How was it playing out in my life before? And where did I get relief from it? And so I looked at a lot of things when, because I saw that there's times when I would pray for people, but I would pray for something specific. But now I know to pray for God's will, whereas before I would look at, because I prayed for something specific, I looked at it as whether it worked or whether it didn't work. And that's not how God's will be done. And that's what my prayer should be. But, and Kurt said, a power greater than self. And I appreciated that, because that's what I'm not realizing in some of my actions, that I'm not allowing that power greater than self to operate. Because even in terrible situations, God is working. And in that situation with my mom when she died, and I ended up in that mental hospital for 12 days and out of my mind for 4 months, later on, I really realized how God took care of me, because I had the inability to take care of myself. So he had to have been doing it, and how he took care of me. I mean, I did some really dumb stuff. I had this fake looking thing that was like a gun. I had it in my boob. I'd pull it out on people. I did that in Union Station, and most people could get dead as a as a result of something like that. But it showed me how God could take care of me. And so it put me in a position where I can look back, and when trouble comes, because it does come, issues and troubles do come, that I can rest in God and I can turn it over to him. And that was something that I didn't know way back then, even though I sought peace, but I didn't know it way back then. So I really want to thank you, because I've gotten a lot of jewels out of this that are helpful for me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Anyone else want to share? I'm going to call on Deanna in Virginia, I think.
I'm Deanna, I'm alcoholic. Thank you for calling on me. I love this meeting, and I love listening to you, Clinton. I actually met you at FOTS, I think. Anyways, I love your energy, and I was just engrossed in your story and listening to your story, and it just drew me in. And when you first started sharing, I thought, God, our stories are so different. But then you got to the drinking, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're the same. But I've heard so many good things on this meeting tonight, and I get intimidated sharing on this meeting, because I feel like I've got nothing to offer. But I'm grateful to be here, and grateful to have the opportunity to listen to everyone, and to grab onto these little nuggets and carry them through my day. And I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. I'm going to call on one more person, unless we have a hand. Emerson, how are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Emerson, alcoholic. Good to see everyone. Thank you, Clint. What I got out of your share was, for me, this program is it's about living. It's about how to live. It's not about how not to drink or how not to use. The drinking and using for me is what got me to a point of having to choose whether to live a spiritual life or to die an alcoholic one. Now, the drugs and alcohol have been removed. They're gone. But the problem is, living. How do I live? And I just love, the stuff that you talked about. And I think it was Sarah that just said, and it's really true. She said, she doesn't have to tell God to take care of people. My prayer used to always be, God protect my daughter and my grandson and this and that. I mean, he's going to do that. But what I get now is I get direction on how I need to live, what I need to do. Last Friday at Kurt's meeting, and for whatever reason, that was the topic of the meeting was what was it? It was the illusion of control. And we were talking about, or we listened to a tape about the illusion of control. And this was right at the end of, the same week, my mom's wrongful death case had ended. And so, there's all this stuff going on. And it hit me at that moment that I hadn't grieved. I took care of the funeral stuff and we're doing this and that. And so at that moment, it was like, oh, you need to grieve. Now, I never would have, without this program, without the people in the program, the idea that like it's okay to grieve, let go, say goodbye, do whatever the case is, that comes from someplace other than me. Because, my default is to deflect, evade, turn away from. I'm going to do all that stuff. So anyway, and the healthy thing to do is to grieve, appropriately. So anyway, what I heard from you, Clint, was this program is showing you how to live. Seemed like, for just same with you as me, alcohol was a vehicle that maybe got you to that point. It was alcohol and drugs for me, but this program is about how to live and how to live a spiritual life, how to live in God's world. And for me, it's always changing. It's growing. It's not like something that's set in stone. So I appreciate coming to meetings like this one in particular, and Kurt's meetings, where I think I said it at Kurt's meeting, is like, this is like a wide open field. It's just like this wide open field. You hear all different kinds of stuff, and it's like a smorgasbord. You get to pick, like, oh yeah, I like that. This I can use. I don't know. It's just great. So anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Emerson. I think we're at the end of our time. Sam Glenn, who kind of founded this workshop, started it several years ago, has asked for a moment of privilege. Sam, do you want me to wrap it up with a prayer and then turn it over to you, or vice versa?
No, we'll do this and then we'll wrap it up with a prayer real quick. So I think we've been doing this meeting, I would say it's like close to 2.5 years now, maybe something like that. It's been a long time. And I got an idea today. I'm actually stealing this from a sponsee. He said he went to a meeting in California where the title of their workshop was The Great Reality. And they read from pages 54 through 55. And I thought that I would propose it to this group that we change the workshop to reading pages 54 and 55 for, some time, and change the meditation to that and do the great reality. I think that'd be a lot of fun, so we have a great group, and I think maybe we'll bring it up. I know Don's got several speakers scheduled through mid-September, but after that, we might make the change. I know this group means a lot to a lot of people, so I didn't want to do that without, getting everybody's blessing or vibe on that. But, something to consider over the next week or two. But that's what I want to propose. Sorry, Clint, I was a little distracted. I was typing to somebody about that right when you called on me. And I tell you, man, what a great share. You did such a great job. And I love you, buddy. And also, Chris H's commitment's up for chairing the meeting. Way to go, Chris. Chris Heckert kicked some serious ass this month. Great dude. So I know this next quarter, Don's volunteered her services again, got a whole bunch of great speakers lined up for us. We'll have to throw Rami in the mix for the new reading. So, all right, guys. Well, Chris, thank you for your service, man. It's been such a pleasure to have you be a part of this, and maybe have you close us out.
I have one thing to say, Sam, before we close, just to continue giving a little bit of insight to your proposal, that if we switched the reading, a good time per what's scheduled would be on September the 15th. For the person who started on September the 15th, if everyone feels that that's okay. Additionally, I've also, Maggie out of Colorado and Grand Junction, she's been hanging out here for a little while, being real quiet. She has agreed to be a co-chairperson through the next quarter as well. So you'll probably be hearing a little from her too.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you, Maggie.
Chris, you want to take us out, broski?
All right. Thanks, everyone. This has been a great meeting. Great to see everyone. We're going to go into our inner room and center ourselves, whether it's quiet, whether it's a quietly spoken prayer, a prayer of your choice, and we'll come back and we'll thank Clint for his share. Let's take a moment and center ourselves for prayer. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And Clint, especially thank you tonight for all you shared and your openness. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for your service.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Clint.
so much. Great to
Thanks,
hear you.
Clint. That was
Thank you.
wonderful.